Should we get started then? So today we will be presenting our ID slash work in progress for the Arma 3 mod, the Hunger Battle Royale. And this will be, one moment. We will basically be going through all our IDs. I will not be taking questions or looking at chat during the presentation. After the presentation we will have a Q&A session, and then we will be running through basically all your questions and comments and whatever you want. You can also tweet about your impressions, comments. If you tweet to hashtag Kalbuir Gaming, it will most likely show up during the Q&A session as well. Most of you guys are regulars, so most of the intro stuff is kinda mundane for you guys, but hey, let's run through it anyway. So, a little bit about me. I've been a gamer for about 14 years. I'm 27 now, so you can do the math. I started streaming in November. I mostly stream shooters, MOBAs, and MMORPGs. I'm a full-time developer on financial applications for work, and everything that I do in my free time mostly involves gaming, streaming, programming, and yeah, that's about that. I'm an aspiring game designer or slash community management. Those are the things I like to do. Those are the things why I enjoy streaming so much. Interaction with gamers, interaction with community. Well, all of you regulars know how much I enjoy chatting with you guys. So yeah, that is pretty much straightforward. This kind of started as like only a presentation that we would be giving out to like only the regulars. I think we got some new guys in there as well. Most likely came through the Reddit post because someone figured like, hey, let's put it on Reddit. What could go wrong? Well, nothing really. So, current team of people who are working on it, Trust, me, and two 3D artists, logo creators who have offered their help, and you, but we will talk about that in a little while. So why did we start this mod? Why did we want to build this mod? It's for a few reasons. Anyone who knows my stream knows that community is a big thing for me. Interaction with you guys is a big thing for me. I mean, we always talk to each other. I want a constant line of communication with you guys, and most of all, I want to be playing with you guys. Now, this also has a lot to do to why I stream in the first place, and like I think I would say that about 90% of my viewers actually enjoys watching the type of gameplay that Arma 3 offers. But one problem with like Arma 3 is that you can only play with so many viewers, right? I mean, as most of you know, we play most of the time with our own squad, and then we invite 2 or 3 viewers at max. And it becomes messy very quick, right? I mean, you play with a squad, either if you play Wasteland or DC or whatever, you play with a squad, and it just gets messy because you have either too many people who might not necessarily have much experience to like how to call out directions, how to keep comms clear, or just want to have a fun time. So yeah, those are some of the challenges, and this mod is our attempt to make our Arma 3 stream a lot more open to you guys. So that brings us to like the design goals of our ID. We want to support more viewers per game, so we want to be playing more with you guys, not less. We want a game to last a certain time, so there's a clear start, there's a clear end, meaning like one of the problems we have with DC and Wasteland is that we pretty much do stuff. We run around, we do stuff, we die, we start over, right? Now, it is much more engaging to have a clear start and end and actually have like a winner, for example. Now, it's also important that, say, you have a certain amount of slots of people to play with, but there are like 5 more guys who also want to play. So we wanted to make sure that you could actually have a rotation of people coming in, new people, old people, people coming back, people who are here for the first time. They can just jump in and play. then the round ends, and then a new batch of people comes in. Now, another very important part, in my opinion, is competition. I mean, it's fun killing your friends, right? I enjoy killing Prophet, for example. I greatly enjoy killing Prophet. I don't get to kill him as often as I would like to, but I like killing Prophet. So we wanted to like set up a way that you could compare your performance with your friends. You can actively compete with your friends. And most important, you can kill your friends, because killing people you know is much more fun than killing people you don't know. Now, a lot of times when someone doesn't really like watching Arma 3, it's mostly because you see me running. Most of the time, you see me running around, right? I mean, at the moment, if we look at Stratus, you go from the radio tower, I said it wrong, Air Station Mike, to Camp Rogaine. That's about 15 minutes of run. And I mean, depending on how populated the server is, what people are doing, and if there are mission objectives in between, I'm using Wasteland as an example here. There might not be a lot of action going on. So that was one thing that we wanted to address. We wanted our mod to have a lot more action than the other Arma 3 mods that are out there. So the time between action is, our goal is to shorten the amount of time between skirmishes, basically. We also wanted to create a scalable solution, so it doesn't matter in which state the game is today or the game is tomorrow. When new maps come out, when people start to port Genre is over, for example, or when the big island comes out, we want our mods to be runnable anywhere, any place, anytime. I will go into that in more detail later. At the moment, we are using existing art. Eventually, we would like to replace all art with our own. And we coded the mod from scratch. This means that we didn't borrow any code from other mods. And I will go into motivations on that in a little while. So, challenges of the project. Arma 3 is in beta stage, which means is that the API that the Arma 3 client provides is still heavily evolving and improving over time. This essentially means that at the moment it happens where it is actively breaking our codes and it is changing under us. This is not really an issue, but this is something that that is certainly a challenge from starting early. We wanted to start early because Arma 3 at this point has a limited amount of crowd, but a very loyal core. Especially if I look at my own viewers and regulars, a lot of you guys enjoy Arma, and we want to play with you guys as soon as possible. Now, this is also a large motivation on why we wanted to build everything from scratch. Because if we build everything from scratch, we know the code, we understand the code, and when something changes or when we see change logs, we also know exactly like which part of a codes are affected. This makes optimization as new features become available easier, and it also makes it more scalable. So, and then our last motivation for all of that is that it makes it a lot easier to expand on features as the project continues. Later I will be going over an overview of our basic features, the features that we would like to implement after launch, and like the sky's the limit features that I would really like to do, but we need to see like how many people we can reach, how well it is received, and then we can do the crazy ass shit. But I mean, to name one example, we could have borrowed the food system from any other mod out there. Like that is pretty much happening with a lot of mods. But if we would then like to modify the food system, where, for example, eating an apple does something else than eating a stew, then we would have to overhaul that system anyway. So why not make that code your own right away so you can jump in? So that is that, and that slide took way longer than I initially practiced. Let's start with the fun stuff. That was the boring stuff. Let's start with the fun stuff, and after that comes the more fun stuff. So the basics. let's talk about the basics. The setting. Well, basically you've been chosen to participate in the biggest blood sport event ever. This means that players are dropped by helicopter into a dome in a pretty harsh environment, and they are not allowed to leave that dome until one man is standing. That is pretty much the idea. We haven't really like gone into the lore yet. Most of us aren't really creative with story, so that is still being worked on. If it's being worked on, we would like to like focus on gameplay and like making it cool and fun to play first, and we can like come up with a cool story later. I mean, there are plenty of examples from that, and I mean the mod idea is already coming from a pretty awesome story. So for now, people have a basic idea on what the story around that could be. So the basics. Every battle is played in a round, and the round starts with currently 20 people per round. This is subjected to change depending on our playtest and depending on how we can tweak performance. It is likely to go up to more than 20, but at the moment we are comfortable with saying that it will be 20 people per round. Each game starts with what we would like to call the circle of death. Now, it's got circle of death because people die. Once over, you have two choices. You can run to the middle and you can loot, or you can run, and that basically means you run away as fast as possible without like picking up any of the more special supplies. One thing that is worth noting is every player spawns with a backpack in front of him with some basic supplies. They have to pick it up. So they have to pick up the backpack, pick up the items. So the faster you do that, the faster you can get the hell out of there, or you can try and get a gun and score some quick kills. But I mean, it is pretty obvious that the circle of that will be pretty risky at the start. I mean, it is safe to say that as soon as the game starts, some people will be dying. Now, if you choose to just run out, that is a perfectly viable choice. You can scavenge the world to survive. You can find the same loot that are in the crates around the world. They are mostly hidden. But I mean, you will be at a certain disadvantage in terms of players who took the risk and got the gear in the first place. So there's a very heavy element of risk versus reward in play. We are going to support both ranged and melee combat. I will be going into that a little while later, but melee combat is like something we are really passionate about. As I said, last man standing wins. A third-person camera will be disabled. This is mostly due to some features we're planning, and because we're all fans of like the immersive aspect of the game. So that's one thing. I also want to point out that we're working on realistic jumping. Keep in mind, I say realistic jumping. I do not say bunny hopping. Some other decisions we've already made. The direct communications will be enabled. This means that you can talk in proximity with other players, which means that you can, for example, align yourself with others by using the in-game voice communications, or you can figure out if someone is actively intending to kill you or not. Chat is disabled, so no spam in chat, no other messages in chat, it's just not on the screen. And dead messages are not being shown. We do have a UI that indicates the amount of people that are left on the server, but there is no way of knowing who, as a player, who those players actively are. Whenever someone dies, a loud thunder strike is heard throughout the game, and this indicates that a player has left the battlefield, or well, died. So we already went over this. At the start of the round, you see the backpack with some gear in front of it. We would like to make it so that like there's a little bit of a difference between how fast people can come to the crates. The circle is like everyone's just as far away from the crates, but obviously the faster you can like put everything on, the faster you can get to the loot. We expect that this will be different per player, and we would like to modify that later, expand on that a little bit later on as well. But that's all I can say about that now. So a few key things about our setup. Players don't know what area to expect. So the area where the battle will be played is randomly generated or can be dynamically adjusted. This means that every round can essentially be different. It's not like you start in the game and you know that, well, marina is in reach. I can go to the marina and then I can go to the airfield and then I can basically hide at the edge of the airfield. No one can see me coming and that's it. Now, as the bigger map gets released, that essentially also means that we can do some really interesting stuff for both new and old players where they effectively don't really know what to expect. Players, in my opinion, have two options. They can actively hunt other players for their stuff, for their food, for their water, and just to eliminate people and be closer to the victory. Or they can be a little bit more passive and wait it out. Go from bush to bush, be stealthy. I mean, essentially, for like to be the last man standing, you don't have to kill anyone. But there's one very important thing. Camping isn't really possible with the IDs we have at the moment, so that won't really be an option. Now you can choose to team up with other players, or you can play lone wolf, but teaming up comes with certain risks and rewards. I mean, teaming up means you can get shot in the back the moment someone decides you're no longer useful. But teaming up can also mean that you can effectively 2v1 anyone. So I mean, that's a consideration you need to make. But at the end of the day, when only two remain and those two are working together, one of them needs to die. And this is where I think that like team dynamic really comes into play, because when are you going to decide to get rid of your teammate, right? So this, in my opinion, creates a very interesting atmosphere where you're still working together with someone, but you're still looking over your shoulder like, when is he going to shoot me in the back? So let's talk a little bit about the area. At the moment, it's a size of a square kilometer. And this is of course subjected to change, but this seems to work out quite nicely. We can, as I said, we can freely move this around on any map and area, which is important because, as I said, I mean, I'm expecting generals to eventually come to Arma 3. We've seen in Arma 2 that some developers, modelers, whatever you want to call them, are amazing at making super cool maps, and we would like to support that. We would like to say, like, today we're going on that map and the next day we want to be in a more like snowy area, mountainy area. All that stuff is such an essential part of your gameplay. That is pretty much it for this slide. So let's see what a square kilometer looks like on the current map. If you look on the map at the moment, then this is pretty much a square kilometer. So that's about, I would say, 1/5 of the island or something like that. It is short enough to like easily travel. If you have 20 people in there, you can like pretty much imagine that there's always someone close, and we will talk a little bit more to that when we talk about like how are we going to handle weapons. But I mean, keep in mind this is pretty small. I mean, you can see Air Station Mike. And you can see like the area under Marina. Now that is a distance you can quite easily cover in Arma 3. Now this is an example of how we can quickly move areas around. So, for example, in this case, like the red ring would be in the south, which would basically cover between the lighthouse, Gurna, and Camp Maxwell. Go up a little bit, and we pretty much had the area we were talking about before. So I mean that effectively entirely changes the dynamic of your game. Let's talk a little bit about loot, because at the end of the day we all enjoy scavenging, right? A lot of people who play Wasteland and they see Mist that part like, oh wow, or well, miss the part like that isn't in Arma 3 by default. Like, oh wow, there's a really good sniper rifle here. Like that's cool stuff. Now let's actually look at what kind of loot we're talking about. Guns come without attachments by default, so you actually have to separately find your scopes, find your red dots, find your laser sights, find your flashlights, for example. Ammo comes separately as well, but obviously when you find the gun, it's nice if it also has some ammo in the vicinity. There will be different weapon types. We will be going into this, but I will mention them quickly now. Modern guns, melee weapons, and bows. And when I say bows, I also that also leaves open the possibility of crossbows, stuff like that. Throwable objects such as grenades, flashbangs, smoke grenades, and maybe some other stuff. Different types of food. Basically, just as your use stuff on any other mods, although we would like to expand on that a little bit. But like I hinted at before, food doing different stuff would be really nice to have. Different medicine to counter different effects. Medicine will be rare. Medicine will be really rare, and it will be pretty vital for your survival if you are hurt. This is where viewer interaction comes in later. That's all I will say at this point, but we will pick that up as we go. But let's just say medicine is very useful in our game. And then we have clothing and armor and other protection, which we handle a little bit different than some of the other mods out there. We are planning to implement a large range of different type of traps, which do different things. I will again elaborate on that later. And a range of tools, and that mostly hints at the crafting stuff. But we will get to that. Let's look at the weapons. All the weapons are Arma 3 compatible, which means that they're fully working with attachments. We're using the Arma 3 base weapons, plus some custom weapons and attachments, which we use from certain community projects, which I will elaborate on later. Then we have melee weapons. At the moment, the ones we want to implement are knife, machete, katana, and hatchet, which are pretty much the iconic ones, right? I mean, who doesn't want to run around with a katana? And bows and crossbows. Now, a quick example of, for example, one of the weapons we have in our game currently, which I believe is the FAMAS, if I'm not mistaken. I shouldn't say that because my gun knowledge is not that great. Guns and modern gear. So one of the decisions we had to make at the start was, are we going to implement like machine guns, sniper rifles, LMGs in like a game that is like in a small area that is action packed and where we also want to have like melee combat? The answer is yes. The reasons for that are simple. It is such an essential part of the Arma 3 gameplay. I mean, playing Arma 3 without guns or with like just Lee Enfields or whatever, in my opinion, just wouldn't be the same. We are currently using a range of models from R3F Arms, which is the French weapon pack, and the RH pistol pack, which is a range of pistols. Again, we would in the future would like to move to our own art. But using pre-existing community-made art makes it a lot easier for us to jumpstart the development process and bring it to you guys faster. So that's what we're doing at the moment. Now let's talk a little bit about melee combat, right? Because everyone loves it, but it's not that effective. I mean, if you look at DayZ, yeah, you have an hatchet, but you don't necessarily are able to use your gun at that point. So when do you end up using your hatchet? When you either have no gun or you want to kill zombies silently. That wouldn't do because we have no zombies. Sorry, it's not a zombie game. So, like, how do we deal with the entire bringing a knife to a gunfight situation? Well, first of all, we make it easy to swap to melee. This depends. That it doesn't matter if you have a primary weapon. It doesn't matter if you have a sidearm. You can have an M4 on your shoulder, and you can still get the katana in your, oh well, I would have to say backpack, but you guys know what I mean. Now, this means that if you run out of ammo, ammo will be pretty sparse, that you can also just get out your melee weapon if you have one and just charge the guy. Now, what I would be wondering, like, you could also offer someone to, like, wait, there are only two people left, we're standing right next to each other. Let's just take the gentleman way out and just take out our swords and see who's the best man standing. That's a hope that I have. Will it actually happen? I don't know. I'm pretty sure that as soon as the third last person dies, they will probably just open fire on each other. But it would be nice if we get some gentlemen that would just be say like, "Sir, I challenge you to a duel." Another thing that melee weapons enable is silent takedowns. As I said, the area is limited. The area is small. We all know how far gunfire travels, especially with some certain loud guns. And we also know that it's very easy to pinpoint where that gunfire is coming from. Meaning that if you are in a position where you can sneak up to someone, which is actually possible if you enable first-person view only, then silent takedowns become a lot more tempting. This essentially means that if I am like sneaking up to Prophet and I'm close enough, I am essentially able to execute Prophet. I don't have to hit him a million times. I will just kill him. This also adds to the part of like constantly having the feeling that you're not safe. You actively have to like keep looking around, because if someone sneaks up to you, you are going to die. One thing that's worth pointing out though is that obviously with silent takedowns it's not only proximity, because that would be pretty OP. If you just run up to someone, run around him and like do a silent takedown, that is obviously not really a good idea. So that's the basic plan. One sec. So much talking. Let's go over the key features. Well, let's start with the usual suspects, right? Hunger, thirst, heat, and health. These are like the things we've come to expect and come to know in a lot of armor mods. Food and water is sparse, like it's hunger battle. The name says it. You're supposed to be hungry. So in order to get food, you can hunt, you can scavenge, or you can essentially kill other players for their food and water. That is basically the stuff that matters in the dome. Surviving with water and food. Now, health is obviously really important. It's not only your hit points, it's a little bit more than that. We will talk about that a little while later, but a stranger might be out there that could help you out, which might not even be in your match. That's all I will say for now. We will get to that when the crazy stuff hits. But there's one big thing, and this is where I kind of come back to camping. You have to stay warm. In a lot of armor mods, there is a temperature meter, but it really doesn't affect you that much unless you're like in the water or like playing on one of the cold maps. Well, in our mods, staying warm is an issue. I don't know what they did, but the dome is actually causing you to freeze your ass off. So, how do we stay warm? Well, not moving will decrease your body temperature. This essentially means that if you lie in a bush for 30 minutes just waiting for someone to come over the hill, you will have a problem. You will actually have a problem. When you get to a point where you start taking damage, so when hypothermia sets in, then you will basically like slowly die, as what we're used to. Now, heating up will prevent this, but there is a point where you're that cold that just sitting at a fire is just not going to help you. Just like, for example, when you're dropped into ice cold water, your system goes into shock, and that's pretty much the end, right? So at that point, only like mats, adrenaline, blankets, stuff like that is going to save you. Now, where this stuff comes from, there are a few options, but we will talk about that. One of the options is looted. The other options we will talk about later. There are also other means of staying warm. Buildings and shelters will be warmer than the outside. Special clothing will keep you warmer, meaning that you your body temperature drops more slowly. Certain items might temporarily prevent you from getting cold, however, not, for example, generate your temperature. And a fire obviously heats you up. However, keep in mind, fire causes smoke. Fire is very easily fuelable, meaning that that might not always be a good idea. Key feature 2, armor. And I would like to introduce you guys to Charlie. Charlie has just entered the Hunger game, the Hunger Battle. And this is basically what anyone who enters looks like at the moment. He has no backpack, he has no vest, he has a short sleeve shirt, and yeah, that's about it. Now, our gear is not only cosmetical. Every piece in game has armor points, meaning that you take less damage when you're wearing that gear. Meaning that, like, if you put a helmet on your head, that helmet is actually going to be useful. If you put a vest on with like body armor on it, it is actually going to help you. So that is something that we're really happy about, because that is something that I've always been missing, like the point of gear, the point of swapping gear besides just like a ghillie suit, for example. And that also adds like a certain part where, for example, wearing a ghillie suit might make you weaker but lesser to see, less easy to see. So that could balance it out a little bit more. Obviously, those balance things are still like under discussion, and it will mostly depend on the playtests on how we're going to balance that. But those are some of the thoughts we have about that. So gear offers you better survival chances, and nothing. So there's one thing to keep in mind: carrying more stuff, so heavier gear, more items in your backpack will have consequences. Meaning that like the hoarding strategy, like I have 1,000,000 food and water and no one else has any, could be useful, but it also makes you more susceptible to like being at a disadvantage in, for example, gunfight, or when you have to flee. Let's look at another key thing that we want to do. Arma 3 offers like amazing possibilities for UI development. Things that we couldn't do in Arma 2, things that looked kind of clumsy, things where Arma 3 would essentially sometimes be a little bit clumsy, would now be possible. One of the things that we want to implement is get rid of certain features out of the scroll wheel. It is very easy to like misclick on the scroll wheel or like misscroll on the scroll wheel. You want to eat and you drink. You want to quickly swap weapons, but like there's like food in between, so you swap to something you don't want to swap to, for example. Now the way we want to implement this is using a technique that you see in mostly in graphic applications such as Maya and 3D Max. You, for example, click on the middle mouse button. The menu, as you see in the right picture, comes up. And you then move your mouse to whichever area you want to go. So in this case, my mouse would be like in the up direction, and I would eat if I would release my middle mouse button. Now, the way we would like to implement this is in such a way that you essentially don't need to know what is on the menu. You don't even have to look at the menu. All you have to do is hit the middle mouse button and go up a little bit, and it would execute the eat function. Let's go to our second key feature, and this is something that, in my opinion, is really fun. It's called dead zones. Now, guess what happens when you're in a dead zone? You die. You die horribly. The idea at the moment is mortar strikes. So as you can see, you have these, I think is it 200 by 200? 100 by 100? I think it's 100 by 100 meters of kill zones, and the player will be notified when they are actively in the kill zone, which means they will need to get out of the kill zone as soon as possible, otherwise the mortar strike. If the mortar strikes, well, it's pretty much the end. So players will not only be dying from PvP combat, they will also be dying from mortar strikes. And this is a way to like promote moving around, have people come from area to area, and not just sit in one place and wait. Keep in mind that at a later point, for example, we see that someone is sitting at a certain location for a long while, we could just trigger a death zone as well if we wanted to. If that would be a design addition I would be happy with, I'm not sure, because that would be kind of susceptible to biasness, but that is a possibility. A second thing I'm really happy about is sneaking. Do you remember those times when you're in front of a door in like a first person environment and you wanna like breach the door a little bit, like safely, but all you can do is just open the door, and if the guy is like sitting in a direct line with you, you're pretty much like screwed. Or if he's like, I mean, so we have an option to sneak peek through doors, meaning that you open the door only slightly and you can look inside before breaching it. This adds to the immersion in the game, and it will have to show in our playtest, but I really feel that this is actually like a good way to go into buildings, check loot, and make sure that no one else is inside. Trapping is another feature we're really happy about. Traps can be found and set anywhere in the active area. This means, for example, that if you find a randomly dropped pile of loot, you could set a trap and basically run your way, and whoever tries to get that loot will either detect the trap or spring the trap. Now, traps have quite a few amount of different effects that we're hoping to implement. The obvious ones are bleeding, so you get damage over time, which will cap out at a certain amount of damage. Or depending on how rare we make medicine, it might just actually require you to say, well, you would just bleed out in like the next 10 minutes unless you find medicine. This could work actually pretty well with our later IDs, but we will have to see how that works out. Same goes for poison and, for example, slowing. So you walk in a bear trap, and the bear trap basically slows you because your leg is wounded. Traps can be detected by other players. How we're going to do that, we're not ready to talk about yet. And traps can be disarmed. This means that if you detect a trap, you can disarm the trap. Depending on certain factors, you might be able to pick up the trap, or you can just make it render it not useful anymore. Spectating is another big thing we want to do. We will talk about this a little while later. But when you die, the game is essentially over for you. You have one life and that's it. But you can choose to spectate the game, which means you can move the camera around freely, you can follow a specific person, and you can jump to specific locations. For example, if the area is at the airfield, you can jump to the hangars. If the area is at Camp Rogaine, you can just go to Camp Rogaine. Now this is obviously a sensitive subject because it enables like cheating. Like if two friends are like working together, one can feed intel to the other. We will address this later. And we don't think that we are so passionate about spectating that we're willing to make it so that that is less of an issue than people would expect. But we will talk about this a little while later. That's the end of the boring stuff. And let's just go with like the more fun ideas, shall we? Wildlife. Now, I want to say like wildlife is not our version of zombies. Not every piece of wildlife will attack, and there will not be a million bears running around the area. But if you do find a bear and you're prone in like near a forest and you're in a gunfight and there's a bear near you, you might want to consider just killing the bear first. Because bears don't really like gunfire. Bears are not happy with people waking them up from their sleep. There's two types of wildlife, passive and active. Now the passive wildlife are like, I don't know, the stuff you pretty much already know, right? Cute bunnies, zebras, depending on the map, stuff like that. Now, the active wildlife, I'm thinking of hyenas, wolves, bears, stuff like that. Obviously, we don't have art for that yet, but that is stuff we would like to do after the basic version is out. Now, passive wildlife will be your main source of food, and it can also like indicate where players are. Meaning that if, say, you have a bear behind you, then that bear might choose to run around for a little while in the area, and someone sees a bear and he thinks, oh, that might mean that there's someone in the area. Stuff like that. So it might actually reveal your position in certain ways. This brings me to like a point that seems completely off topic, but bear with me, because this is a feature I'm pretty excited about to hear your views. For those who are not familiar with my stream, we use viewer score, which is a system I developed myself. Spending time viewing the stream, spending time in chat, essentially nets you points. And you can see those points on my website at the moment. The way we're going to be expanding on that, first of all, I'm going to be tweaking the algorithm, because there's some things that just need to be fixed before we move that to the next level. But once a month, no, I say that wrong. That was our old ID. You can convert your viewer score into... Now, the name is not really set in stone yet, because I'm really hoping to call it gnome points. But I'm not sure yet. We might just call it game points. But whatever. The goal is that those points allow you to do stuff to the stream. So you will be influencing the stream with those points. Now, that can be an impact on the games we're streaming. Like, you want me to stream Super Meat Boy because I suck at Super Meat Boy and you like making me feel miserable. Or you might just want to see if I want to play Dota or something like that. So once a week we will be having a viewer day, and the viewers with their points will basically allocate their points to a game, and the game that is at the top of the score at that point will be played for, say, 4 hours. Now, after that game is played for 4 hours, we will wipe that score, and the second spot takes the place of the first spot. So no matter where you spend your points, sooner or later your game will most likely get streamed, if I own the game. It is worth pointing out that I control which games are in the list. So voting for Hello Kitty is not going to work unless I choose to add Hello Kitty. And another thing I'm considering is, for example, having actions in games. So if I use Dota 2 as an example, I never play Meepo, but you really want me to finally start learning to play Meepo, you can essentially force me on Sunday to play Meepo. That's essentially the idea. Now, this is quite a derail, right? So why the hell am I telling you this? Well, I'm telling you this... Okay, slide order is slightly screwed up. We will get to the part where it actually makes sense. I also need to explain you that Hunger Battle is not just one round and it's over. We want to make certain aspects persistent. This means that gear will still be wiped, you will still start fresh, but you might take like the experience of your character over, which might make you a little bit more powerful or a little bit more effective. It also it could also mean that winning has a big impact. We will be adding a ranking system, which I will be talking about a little while later as well. But winning a tournament and like staying at the top of the leaderboards would mean that you would automatically get another invite for the next Hunger Battle. Now this hints at some stuff I'm going to talk about later, but I just want to put this out there right away. Which is complete website integration. I want to integrate Hunger Battle completely into the website, which means that you gain entry to a Hunger Battle. Like you can play Hunger Battle with your viewer score or Kalbuir points essentially. So you buy your ticket into the game and you play the game. So we have 30 slots, 30 people buy a ticket, and we play the game. Now, if you buy a ticket, it doesn't essentially mean you have to play it right away. But that's our way of promoting people to like also watch each other while they play Hunger Battle. Now, another really thing, and this is something I'm like really excited to start building as like a web developer. We are going to make a portal where you can effectively see all the players on an interactive map. Now, this might not be real time. It might be delayed. It might be randomly delayed for certain obvious reasons. But you will see a map of the current setting we're playing on. You will see all 20 players running around. And if you click on them, you can see which gear they have. You can see what their current health is like. You can see if they're cold or if they're warm, if they require food, if they require water. Now, this is where like the viewer interaction comes in, because you can support your favorite player with what we call care packages. This means is that you spot that, say, well, let's use Charlie as an example. Let's say that Charlie is currently suffering from hyperthermia. He's beyond a point that fire won't help him, you know, except if he just kills himself with it. But you're a fan of Charlie, and I'm looking at you here, Lucker. I'm looking at you, and you decide like, well, I have like 10 Kalbuir points, and for five Kalbuir points, I can give him medicine, and he can stay in the tournament a little bit longer because he will recover a little bit. So Lucker clicks on the interactive map, clicks send care package, and he selects, I want to give this person the medicine he needs to heat up and not die from hypothermia. So Lucker executes that use case, and now the player gets a notification, well, you've received the care package. And this is where things are not really set in stone yet. But how this player is going to obtain the stuff is either it's going to magically appear in his inventory, which would be okay, but we could make that cooler. And I'm mainly thinking of like drop crates and stuff like that, which means that Charlie would not be guaranteed to get the stuff as well. And last but not least is leaderboards. And I'm not only talking about leaderboards of winning and losing. I'm also talking about the amount of kills and stuff like that. But we will talk about that a little bit later. So what that means is viewer score will directly impact the hunger battles, which makes it a lot more community driven, which makes it very interesting. Of course, we do aim to make it fair, which means it might not mean that someone can receive an unlimited amount of care packages. And that care package will be most likely restricted to food, water, medicine, and ammo. And maybe in certain situations you can send someone a melee weapon. But that's only in certain situations. And there's one more thing. And I think this is something that really would promote like more spectatorship, more viewers. You can bet on the outcome of battles. We will start with only the outcome of battles, so who's going to win. But you can take that a whole next level. You can like say Prophet is going to kill 3 people, or Kalbuir, he sucks. This round, he's not going to kill anyone. Stuff like that. Or who's the first to be eliminated. And due to that, you will gain points, and that will probably result in you gaining more points to spend. Which brings us to the leaderboards. There will be multiple leaderboards. Winning isn't everything, so you can show up on the top of the leaderboard even if you don't win the round. And I'm mainly thinking of people who are like actively killing people. And the way we want to do this is dog tags. When you kill someone, that person has dog tags on them. When you collect those dog tags, we can then track the amount of people you killed. yeah, we might enable you to do some stuff with these dog tags later, but that's all I will say. Let's talk a little bit about cheating, because as you can see, there's a lot of interaction. There's a lot of potential for stream sniping. There's a lot of potential for spectate cheating, and that is generally a hot topic in Arma and a big problem for what we want to do with the mod, right? So that means that hunger battles are invite only or obtain to fewer points, which essentially means that your progress and your potential of playing is tied to an account we can monitor, behavior we can monitor, and also something we can blacklist, meaning if someone misbehaves or if someone consistently stream cheats, because we can track that with like either player movement or review the battle later, then that might have certain consequences for the outcome of the future matches. And this also enables us to do some correcting when that is needed. So in my opinion, this would maybe not entirely eliminate the problem of stream sniping and spectator abuse, but it would like put it to a degree where personally, me as a streamer, I wouldn't really care about it that much. And I think, I mean, we obviously have to see how it plays out, especially when we bring it to a broader public. But we will have to see if that is enough. And if it isn't, we have some other ideas. Now that was the semi-fun stuff. Let's like go to the crazy stuff. And this is the stuff that is fun. This is the stuff that we won't be doing anytime soon. This is the stuff that we might not be doing if no one likes our IDs. This might be the stuff that might take us a while to actually realize. But this is the stuff where we feel confident that we can build this, and we feel confident that with enough support we can realize our dreams. So let's look at a small list. Fishing for food. This is relatively easy, but just not a priority at the moment. But it is nice to have, right? I mean, say in areas at water, you find a fishing rod and you find some worms somewhere and you just go fishing, right? I mean, you're starving. As long as you have a fishing rod on you, you're safe, right? Pretty much. Unless someone sees you fishing and basically kills you. But okay, that's the risk. Crafting. Now this is something I would really like to do, and I am actually just talking about proper crafting, meaning that you would have to get some supplies, and you can then craft your arrows. You can cook some food. As I said, we want food to do different stuff, meaning that, for example, you would make really good food, which let me use an example besides food. Say you can distill like alcohol. Now alcohol could like keep your body temperature a little bit warmer, stuff like that. Or you could even like make some primitive medicine, which might not work as good as the real medicine. And something that I would really like to see is the crafting of traps. Now we could do some interesting stuff with that, where you could actually like, say you start the hunger battle. You choose to just avoid everyone, focus your stuff on like getting resources, getting good resources, getting sharp objects, getting some knives, and then you just craft some really good traps that might actually just outright kill someone or disable someone completely from walking. That could essentially still win you the game, because you're eliminating people, and I mean in a 1,000 by 1,000 area, it's not that hard to predict where people are going to be walking. So crafting would be something we would be really happy to implement, but it would be also something that is challenging to make and challenging to balance, and it would be also something where I wonder if that is actually something people would want in round-based game. Because are you going to waste your crafting where after say 2 hours of gameplay the round is over and it's gone, your progress is gone? Now I talk about progress, but with that progress, like I'm talking about persistent progress, that's something that also falls in the crazy category. What if playing more and more hunger battles would give you experience, and you can spend that experience. Now, that could essentially mean that you could, for example, unlock better crafting recipes, like better arrows, or you could even craft ammo, or some primitive weapons, say a shelter that you could use as cover, stuff like that. Or you could, for example, be a lot more agile. Oh wow, I should not pick words I cannot pronounce. You you would be a lot faster, and enabling you to pick up a backpack pretty fast, or which basically gives you the ability to get to the center of the pit faster, right? So it makes it less of a risk to run to the middle, or you'd be less susceptible to poison. You'd be able to easily track where traps are laid and stuff like that. And that could even go as far as enabling tracking, but that's a touchy subtech and not something I'm willing to commit to at this point. And this is like the craziest of all. Imagine, like, I mean, if we like forget about Twitch for a moment. Think about the website integration, and then think about, like, what if every player would have essentially a stream running. That is not a stream that runs on their end. That would be a stream that runs on our end, and we're essentially sending out this feed to like the internet. And by clicking on the map, you could open multiple windows, and you could track each person. Meaning, say three people you know are currently playing Hunger Battle. You would open up those 3 people, and you would effectively watch each and every single one of them. Now, this is something that is going to take some capital, and it's going to take some smart programming, and it's going to take some time. It is possible. It's probably not possible at just a stream project, but this is something that, like, where I'm thinking, like, well, the sky's the limit. If you would say let's do something completely crazy, then this would be like the sky's the limit. Let's do something completely crazy. Now, that is basically our ID and our timeline of in which order we want to do things and when we want to do stuff. We have a few milestones. Closed invite only alpha tests start this week. After a few play tests, and we're sure that there are no severe crashes and stuff like that, it will be featured on stream, which you could see as a closed beta, meaning that I would be actively streaming it, and you're able to see the game and mod grow as we continue. This is largely dependent on how the alpha tests go, and when we feel comfortable to actually just show it on stream. Because if we would have to, like, if we would run into issues where stuff crashes, then obviously streaming it is not such a good idea. After which we will move into open beta, which is basically going to mean that any viewer can join at any time. If that is right away going to involve viewer score or not, that's still to be discussed. But that is certainly a possibility. So, what's next? Like, what's next in the project? There's a few things. We aim to have some video footage up next week. It could be a little while later, but that's like the first time you will actually see some gameplay footage, which will most likely involve footage of our alpha test. We then, like, from now on, we are what we see in open development, so we're not going to do secretive about it anymore. If we have ideas, then we're going to talk about those ideas. If your ideas, you're free to post them on our website and participate in our project. And next is a Q&A session, which means I finally get to see chat and talk to you guys. But before that,